Felix Nkunda, and definitely I'll be sitting in for my comrade Jagenda Zikusoka, who's probably not really fine, but I know he'll be catching up with us later on. We expect him or in other productions. But nevertheless, we are here, and we are here to discuss matters of national importance as they are. And today in a specifically and quite interesting way, we're going to be looking at something that lives with us. One would say an enemy that we are trying to fight in our societies that also has caused escalation during the times of the pandemic. That is basically when we look at abuse, and abuse that has manifested itself in various ways. But this will be given shape later on by some of our guests, and that is we'll be discussing this with very profound people, for that matter, I may say, without missing to call them the true identities that they hold. I want to start with, of course, welcoming them to the show, and I'll start with just next to me. That is Madam Jacqueline Okwe, the PRO of the office that is the Director of Public Prosecutions. You're welcome, Madam.
Thank you very much, Felix.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
Thank you very much.
And of course, in the middle is Madam Lucy Ladira, also, who's the Advisor, Criminal Justice Governance and Security Program Secretariat. Good morning, Madam.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I love your outfit.
Thank you.
And of course, on the extreme, the gentleman, that is Mr. Jameson Karemani, the PRO of the Judiciary. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, and good morning, viewers.
Yes, good morning, and you're welcome. Now, today we'll be discussing special court sessions to eradicate, that is, sexual gender-based violence cases in Uganda. As I said earlier, this is an evil that is lived with us probably, but so much has also been done to eradicate the existence of this. In a particular and special way, we want to deal with it and bring it to, of course, closer to society so they understand what's being done by the various stakeholders. And for us to understand better what we are dealing with, I would want to give an opportunity to Madame Ladira to try and give shape or definition to what is meant when someone talks about sexual gender-based violence. What is this thing that we are yet to discuss, and why should we even be having this discussion?
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Sexual and gender-based violence, commonly known as SGBV, alternatively, it is called violence against women and girls because it is disproportionately against women and girls. Is any harm or any attempt to harm a person based on their gender. That is in its most simple form. It could be sexual harm, it could be psychological harm, it could be economic harm. All those sorts of different categorizations is what amounts to sexual and gender-based violence. Now, as Uganda, we are covered by international, regional, and national laws that ensure that a person, a man, a woman, a boy, or a girl is protected from being harmed in any way. Broadly, that is what it's about. And as the justice actors, our role is to ensure that people that commit these offenses are adequately dealt with and that there's justice for the victims.
Okay, and now that you brought in the aspect of justice, knowing that justice has continuously been defined differently, but in the sense of gender, in this particular discussion, we would want to know also, who are the major stakeholders, just briefly from you again, Madam Ladira, who are the major stakeholders we look at in this particular campaign?
The major stakeholders are you and I, are everybody, because each and every one of us can be a victim, and anybody can also be a perpetrator. So the stakeholders are you, are me, are the government that is interested. You will notice that crimes are prosecuted. It's the state that takes a stand for a victim, because it is believed that a crime is an act that harms the society at large, not just the individual. So it is you, it is me, it's our family members, and ultimately it is the government that has to ensure that we live in a peaceful and safe environment to enable development.
Okay, now that you brought in the aspect of you and I and the common citizen or Ugandan, that's where I want to bring in Madame Jacqueline from at least the DPP's office, who would say that they are the custodians of our prosecution as a country, as citizens, and trying to define your role in this fight, in this campaign as an office.
Thank you very much, Felix. So the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is a key player in these SGBV court sessions. The mandate of the Office of the DPP is to prosecute criminal cases in all courts in the country with jurisdiction apart from the court-martial. And now, with SGBV cases, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is actually involved in the prosecution of these cases in the different courts. In these SGBV court sessions, the cases are being handled in the High Court and in the Chief Magistrate's Court, in various courts in the country. And we have prosecutors that are handling these cases in these courts. Now, what is the role of the prosecutor in prosecuting these cases? We ensure, first and foremost, that the witnesses are summoned to court to testify in these cases. And this is because cases cannot be successfully proved in court without witnesses. When the witnesses have come to our office, we prepare them to testify in court. And if these witnesses include children, we have what we call child-friendly spaces. Child-friendly spaces where we have the children and we prepare the children to testify in court in these spaces. These are spaces with amenities for children to make them free and comfortable.
And this is in all courts?
These child-friendly spaces are in our offices.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but some courts also have some rooms that are dedicated for that purpose. So when the children come, we take them to those child-friendly spaces, we make them comfortable, and we use those spaces to prepare them to testify in court. How do we prepare them? We just refresh their memories with the statements that they made at the police stations. The cases that we prosecute are investigated by the police, who compile files, and those are the files that we use to prosecute the cases.
Maybe also just still about the issue of investigations. Does the Office of the DPP have any part they play in these investigations?
Yes. It is also the mandate of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to direct investigations in criminal cases. So we direct the police on how to collect the evidence and the kind of evidence that needs to be collected.
Okay.
And that is what you find in the police files.
Well, of course, having spoken about your side, that is prepared is later on taken to the courts for the judicial officers, if I may say. And that is where I want to bring in Mr. Karemani also to give us an insight on their side as being part of this whole process. In the side of the judiciary, Mr. Karemani, what do we offer to assist this program?
Thank you very much, Felix, and the colleagues who are on this panel. We all agree that there is a problem, and we have to put our efforts together to see how we handle it. As my colleagues have said, there are various actors in this, and the judiciary is part of that. We have the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, we have the police, we have the prisons, we have the Ministry of Gender, we have local government, and of course we have the public, because all these offenses are committed in the public, and we can rely on the public to give us the evidence. Now, as court, we are at the center of all this, because all these cases have to be handled at court. When the police arrest and they prefer charges, these people are charged in our courts. And like we have always said, we find a delay in handling these cases because of the challenges that we face, not only as judiciary, but in other, as well as other actors like police and the DPP. Now, our biggest problem that we have as judiciary is the human resource. We have always said that the number of judges are very few compared to the cases that we have to handle. Now, I can say that by the close of the last financial year, which is that is June 2020, which ended in June last year, rather this year, in June, as judiciary we had 161,000 cases which were pending in courts across the country. This one I'm talking about all the cases, not only criminal, because the same judicial officers who handle criminal cases handle the other component of cases. When you look at the number of the judicial officers that we have and you compare with these cases, if we went to only criminal cases, you will find that if we were to stop handling or receiving new cases and we concentrated on what we have, one judge will need 10 years to finish what is on his shoulder or her shoulder. Now, in 10 years, it means you are not handling new cases, you are handling on you are handling only what we have. Now, that poses a very big challenge, and given the nature of the cases we are talking about today, and the victims who are involved in them, we need to give them some quick justice. An example we can give is a girl who is defiled when she's aged 14, and you have to wait for 5 years to handle her case. By the time you consider it, she's 20. She has gotten married. She's an employee. She's working. And now you come up with your case that she was defiled and you want her to come to testify. That poses a very big challenge, and that will lead to a miscarriage of justice because she may abandon that case, and that is not justice. So that's why we say, let's come together and devise means on how we can ensure that these cases are handled in an expeditious manner. And that is the spirit in which we are coming up with this program.
Okay.
Yes.
And speaking about that, it also brings into play the various actors or the various needed players in this. As Mr. Karimani was submitting, you notice that there are many actors who contribute, and probably now this is where I want to come to Madame Lucy now, that we have the communities where some of these things happen. You may talk of the DPP, the judiciary, but the actual communities, do they have a role to assist us fight at this scourge that we are dealing with?
Yes. First of all, the community is the environment within which the offense occurs.
Happens, yeah.
So we have victims, we have the people that may be witnesses, but we also have the sanctity and the peace of that particular community. I want to reflect on what a recent report by Uganda Bureau of Statistics. They launched a report on gender statistics on 17th last week. And they were, one of the issues that really caught my attention was the fact that sexual and gender-based violence is actually happening within the family setting. Oh. That 14% of the perpetrators are family members. 10% are the people within that same kind of environment. And so what does this say is that there's something within the community, something that is not happening right. Yeah. That in the area where a child, a woman, a man, a boy is supposed to feel safest, that is actually the space in which they are being abused, they are being violated. So what is it that we have to do? It is the education, it is the information that we need to get to them that if you do this, it is bad. We also realize that most people are actually victims, but they do not report. This same report by Uganda Bureau of Statistics says that 70% of the people actually go to the community and the families to report. Their first point of report. It's not police.
It's community.
It's the community.
Where it has actually happened.
Exactly. But that same community either doesn't have the capacity or the knowledge that this is an offense that requires a higher entity, that requires police, that maybe requires medical attention, that we require to preserve the scene of crime. And for sexual and gender-based violence cases, the scene of crime is the body. It is the man's body, it is the woman's body. Now, how does the community get informed? How do they know that this woman should not bathe? That bed sheet or the panty that was found soiled should not be tampered with, because ultimately it is where the evidence is going to be got. Remember, sexual and gender-based violence doesn't really happen in the public. Most often than not, there are no witnesses. Now, the witness is usually the forensics evidence that needs to be collected by those members of the community, by the victim, by the people around at that particular time. And at this time, time is of the essence. How quick do you get this evidence? What kind of evidence do you need to get? And that is where the community is really should be our strongest ally. They should be our starting point. We need to educate them that it is not right for a person to be beaten, a woman to be raped, a child, a boy to be sodomized. And when that happens to that child, ensure that you collect 1, 2, 3, and also ensure that you report to the nearest police station. Yes, the LC might give you that letter that takes you to the police station, but the LC chairperson is not going to be the person that will collect the evidence. And most often than not, there is this code of silence that has really affected the reporting and our response to SGBV cases. And because, as I said earlier, most of the perpetrators are family members or people within the community, when you go and report to the LC or to the family members, the first point will be to preserve, to keep silent, to ensure that the embarrassment is not out there in the public. But what of this victim that has been harmed? I used to be a prosecutor, and you have cases of a child whose private parts are destroyed and up to maybe the reproductive organs, and that child is not going to be a mother or is not going to be able to live a productive life because of an act that was perpetrated against them. And because it was perpetrated and they reported to the family member first or the community, and nothing was done in time, maybe by going to police or going for medical treatment, it wasn't managed, and it wasn't managed well. So the community really, I can't overemphasize this. You are our point of contact. You are our first forensics responders. You are the people that could respond first to the crime, the scene of crime. You need to preserve it. You need to keep your distance, and let's just avoid this whole thing of social media. You're recording a video to circulate, but there's somebody that is being harmed that needs immediate response, which is not video recording.
As I bring in Madam Jacqueline, I also just lastly want to ask you, when you talk about community, there's no way you will miss to talk about tradition and culture as one of the biggest challenges. Kindly make a comment about that. Madam Lucy.
Culture. And if you read the research and sexual and gender-based violence is actually predicated on the cultural norms, the socialization that we have grown with, that as a woman, a man can slap me or beat me and it is okay. And this is backed by research. The research that is carried out by UBOS annually. The health survey. Over 50% of the women think it's okay for their husband to beat them.
To be violent towards them.
Exactly. And where is that coming from? Culture.
Public culture.
The community. Because it's taken to be okay, and it's taken as discipline. But how much discipline is discipline, and should discipline harm you? That is it the man loving you by hitting
discipline
you,
actually becomes an injustice.
by denying you money, by denying you food. It is not okay.
Wow. Well, of course, still about the same, and this is where I now want to hear from Madam Jacqueline here from the DPP's office. Some of the challenges that manifest in the processes of trying to seek for justice for victims of the sexual and gender-based violence are very many, and probably the reason why we have so many cases unanswered. And this is what I also want you to bring to light for our viewers to understand. Probably when they know the challenges, they know where to fit in and assist.
Okay. Thank you so much, Felix. So some of the challenges that we're having with our SGBV cases, I'll give, for instance, the challenges that we're having in this current SGBV court session. First and foremost, we have a number of witnesses, including victims, who are unable to attend court to testify in their cases because, first and foremost, they cannot be found.
Oh.
The cases that we're handling are quite old. The ones that we're handling, the oldest is a 2015 case. So you find that a good number of those witnesses have relocated to places that are unknown. So when the cases come up for hearing, we try to summon the witnesses and we cannot find them. And then there's also the problem of witnesses losing interest in their cases because of the time that it has taken to have the cases heard. So by the time a witness is approached, especially a victim, they're not interested in the cases anymore because maybe they're married or they've moved on.
Do we have a budget for
And so-
such people? Just out of curiosity, do you have a budget for witnesses
Yes.
in this process?
Yes.
Okay.
I will come to that
All right,
point.
that's fine.
Yes, so when they are approached, they say they're not interested anymore because maybe they're married
Life has
or they've
changed
moved
now,
on
yeah.
and now you're here opening a new wound,
Yeah.
an old wound rather. Then the other problem that we are encountering is transportation of the witnesses to court. You talked about a budget for witnesses. Actually, there's a budget for witnesses and it's with the court. But what the court gives is usually a transport refund. Most of the witnesses that we're dealing with are indigent. So they cannot afford to transport themselves from their villages, from their homes to the court. So what we're doing now, what the prosecutors are doing is that they have devised a means of getting transportation for the witnesses. So vehicles pick the witnesses
And drop them.
and drop them to court.
Yeah.
In Moroto, for instance, FIDA has offered a van to
Okay.
collect the witnesses.
Wonderful.
The other challenge that we are having is the COVID situation.
Yeah, the limitations that come.
Yes, the limitation. Now, a van can only accommodate 7 people instead of the 14. So you can't transport as many witnesses at a go. We are also having a challenge of sentencing. We have a problem with sentences that appear to be lenient, too lenient,
Okay.
especially under the plea bargain process. So we have, for instance, had a case where the state agreed with an accused person and we came up with a sentence of 17 years for aggravated defilement. Unfortunately, the court reduced it to 12 years.
Okay.
And this was because of uniformity in sentencing. The case was compared to another case where the accused person was 12 years. However, in the 2 cases, the victims had different ages. In this case where we had agreed on 17 years, the victim was 2 years old. In the other one, the victim was about 7 years old.
Okay.
So we found that to be a challenge.
Yeah.
We, however, have put in notices of appeal in respect of such cases.
Such cases where the facts are not relatable.
Yes.
Okay.
So those are some of the challenges. That we have.
And probably now that you've thrown it to the judiciary, that's why I want to bring in Ndugu Karemani to also give us an insight from his side, because we have had very many statements from various probably offended persons that the justice system is most times the one that failed some of these processes. Of course, he also allayed his challenges of understaffing and so forth. But we would want to know, what do we expect as you being what we call key partners in this fight? Is there anything new we should expect from your side? Are we dealing with these cases expeditiously? Are we giving them priority as the judiciary, as your contribution from the institution to fight such challenge we have in the country? What expectations should we have?
Thank you very much, Felix. Of course, like I said, we have got to devise means despite the challenges, and one of those ways is trying to put our heads together as the actors in the justice system and to give priority to these cases. So that's why we have come up with these special sessions, and we want to appreciate our partners, because as government of Uganda, we have been trying to hold sessions, and especially sessions for the other cases, which are ordinary murder, robbery, and the rest of that. So I want to appreciate the partners who have come in to support this program, and one of those is UNFPA. These sessions that are ongoing right now, they have put in funds, and we do appreciate them for having been concerned and tried to put in the funds. So we are putting up these sessions as one way of trying to expedite the disposal of these cases, given the nature we have talked about. We have also come up with other ways of trying to see how we can dispose these cases, and one of that is the plea bargaining. Now, there are some people there who committed these crimes, and they are saying, I do admit that I did it. So instead of keeping that person for 4 years or 3 waiting to hear his case, we put up a program and say those who feel that they admit their offenses, they can enroll, and this one we do it in conjunction with prisons and DPP. So once we get a list of those who are ready, then we organize special sessions for them, and those cases are disposed. Now, this is a new thing, and that's why we sometimes face the challenges which the DPP has been raising, whereby some judicial officers, after the DPP and the accused person have negotiated, because plea bargaining is about negotiation, the accused negotiates for a sentence, and the DPP also negotiates until they reach a certain level where they say this is appropriate. Now, once they have agreed, they come to the judicial officer to complete the process. So the challenge she has posed of some judicial officers now who feel that what they have agreed is either higher or lower, and they try to intervene and either reduce or increase. The position has been that once these people have agreed on their sentence, we try to respect their negotiation. And if as a judicial officer you feel you are not comfortable with what they have agreed, then you can advise and say this case should go back for the other process to take place, rather than now you coming to alter what they have agreed on. Because that it discredits the process, because the accused knows that I had accepted the offense on this condition. Now you have changed what I accepted. And therefore, it gives a bad example for those who are waiting to also join, because they will say when when you join, they alter your sentence. It's like luring you into admitting the offense. But it's good that the DPP has put in a notice of appeal. We shall respect the process and wait for the Court of Appeal, which will pronounce itself on that. So we are trying to come up with various things, various programs, which we feel should be able to, as we wait for the manpower, which we have started seeing coming, because the number of judges is increasing, and we have been promised that every financial year we shall have an increment on the number of the judicial officers. So as we wait for that to take shape, We are also trying to see what do we do, and that's how we come with those initiatives of plea-bargaining. In civil cases, we have small claims. We have mediation where people also come and agree on their case instantly. So we are not seated. We are trying to see that we come up with programs that can help us to expedite the process.
Just still with you, Mr. Karimani, one of the other challenges we have had from the judiciary is judicial officers not keenly probably having expertise in some matters that come before them. I don't know, for this particular program, do we have any refresher trainings for our judicial officers? Because there's been conflict there in terms of how these matters have been heard, and of course also that some officers may not have conclusive knowledge about such challenges. Are we trying to put up some trainings for our officers?
Thank you very much. Of course, like they say, learning is continuous.
Indeed.
And some of these things are not taught in the law class, so you have to acquire them along the way. And what we have been doing before these sessions begin, there are normally some workshops which are held for the participating judicial officers, participating state attorneys, and the other players. So we normally have that program so that we retool them, so that we get experts in this, and they try to share with them on how they can handle some of these cases. These cases involve juveniles, like they have said, young people. And the way you handle cases of young people is not the way you handle the adult cases. So people have got to understand how to deal with the situation that is at hand. So we have been keen in that, and we have tried to make sure that before these sessions begin, the participating officers are given the necessary information, they are given the necessary training, and I think it has been working for us very well.
Okay. Yeah. Now we will come back to get more of what we have to discuss in terms of this sexual and gender-based violence. But let's take a short break, and we'll be back shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Kabaka Birthday Run 2021 is back on Sunday 28th November 2021, and will be flagged off by Sabasajja Kabaka at 7 a.m. in support of men, good health, and the fight against ending AIDS by 2030. It will be a virtual run in our various homes and communities around Uganda, with every participant following the Ministry of Health guidelines and SOPs to stop the spread of corona. Buy your ticket today at 15,000 Uganda shillings from Airtel Shops, New Park, Chagwe Road, ShopRite Building, Benchwanuka, Tobani Center, or Bulange Mengo. You can also buy your ticket using Airtel Money. Dial *185*5#, select payments, select Kabaka Run, and follow the prompts to complete the payment. Kabaka Birthday Run 2021, brought to you by UNAIDS, CBS, BBS, and Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Depot.
Introducing the all-new Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend surfaces. Roofing's, strength of a nation.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back, and of course it is still Good Morning Uganda Extra. Now today we're speaking about basically sexual and gender-based violence. Now something, again, as I said earlier, that lives with us, but we also must be keen enough to be able to deal with it, confront it, because it lives right before our eyes. Now we've been discussing special court sessions to eradicate, that is the SGBV, and cases in Uganda, and this is now where I want to pick it up with you, Madam Lucy. Why the special sessions? Why special sessions, for that matter, and probably what is entailed in these special sessions?
Thank you. So the special sessions come from, Uganda is a member of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. Oh, yes. And under the ICGLR, there is a framework that was actually signed here in Kampala in 2011. It is called the Kampala Declaration. Now, under the Kampala Declaration, it was agreed by the heads of state that sexual and gender-based violence cases were going out of hand, and it was an issue that needed to be addressed. So they agreed in Declaration 8 that member states set up special framework, either specially trained personnel, carry out special sessions, and ensure specific funding to fast-track the disposal of SGBV cases. And so Uganda, we are actually the first country in the region to actually implement this part of the declaration. We then, with the leadership of the Judiciary, approached the UNFPA to support the special sessions. Now, the UNFPA receives funds from the Austrian Development Corporation, the Embassy of Sweden, and the European Union Spotlight Initiative. And those are the funds that they have availed to us, to the Ministry of Justice, which is holding those funds and coordinating the project through what used to be called the Jail Secretariat. We are no longer the Jail Secretariat, we are the Governance and Security Program Secretariat, who are coordinating this. So we are coordinating the DPP, we are coordinating the Judiciary, we are coordinating the police, we are coordinating the Ministry of Gender, we are coordinating the Uganda Prison Service in order to be able, because those are the different justice actors that are involved in the disposal of a case. So we are coordinating to ensure that this works. Now, under the declaration, the idea is to fast track. That the idea is also to consider whether we need to have a special court. And that part of why we are doing this is to learn lessons. Do we need a special court? Like how we have a special utilities court, an anti-corruption court? Do we need a special court? And if so, what are those things that need to be put in place in order for us to have a special court that only disposes of cases of SGBV? Why? Because of the numbers. If you look at the annual police crime report that was launched this year in April, 16,144 cases were cases of sexual and gender-based violence. Now, we are not talking about other sexual offenses, just the ones, the defilement, the rape, because sometimes a woman can kill her husband and it is actually an SGBV. But in our report, it will be murder. So there's an issue of, we want to be able, how do we build the statistics, the information collecting system to be able to highlight the gravity and the magnitude of SGBV cases. Yeah. Now, under the same, we have a series of activities that we have undertaken. And just reflecting back on His Worship, what he was saying, we have a pre-session training. Before all this session started in 2018. We are now on phase 4. We have a training, we call it a pre-session training, where everybody is brought together, judges, police, the probation, and they train. We highlight the issues. We learn the practices, the lessons from the past session, and then agree on the way forward. What can we do better based on phase 1? And indeed we moved. In phase 1, we had issues of witnesses, we had issues we had not adequately captured, for example, the forensics function. And then we realized that when we got to court, we actually did not have forensics reports, and we were having challenges getting the experts to court. In the next phase, we budgeted for them. But then we also realize that there's an issue of attitude on the part of police officers, which affects ultimately reporting.
Definitely.
And so funds were provided to train police officers in barracks and their communities on SDBV, which affects the way they respond, the way they collect evidence, and the way they handle the witnesses. Because all of these little things affect the outcome of a case. Now, we also provided funding for probation and social welfare officers. These are people that work with the communities, but they are, by law, they are also officers of court. Now, the probation officers, we've given them resources to collect what is called a victim impact statement. Why? Because, as she was saying, the sentences are not really reflective of the magnitude of the offense and also the impact of the offense on the community. Now, when the probation officer collects this statement and it's provided for in the guidelines, they will find out how was this victim impacted, how was the immediate family impacted. Is it financial? Is it medical? Is it psychological? But also, how was the community impacted? Now, that report, the probation officer takes it to the office of the state attorney. During sentencing, when the case has been heard, the state attorney presents this report to the judicial officer. That then informs. What are we trying to do? We are trying to ensure, and as the president has emphasized, that the sentences are not too low, that they are reflective of what has actually happened, the gravity of the offense, but also to ensure that this accused person knows that the crime they committed was grave, but also for the victim to feel recompensed and you know, to feel justice done because it is informed by what is actually on the ground. Yes, so those are the activities we are doing. We are also doing regular monitoring and evaluation, and then at the end of the sessions, we are going to have a post-session review meeting. We always have. And it's about what happened. Why were there so many dismissals, if there were any? Why was this session, why did it have a high conviction rate than this one? And then the judicial officers get to share. Okay. And that's when we got to know, for example, like in Masaka, there's a lot of incest SGBV, where if a mother has left the home, the father sexually abuses the child, grandparents. So we get those lessons. Now, those lessons are going to tell us whether we need to have a special court or not. And because you talked about the specialness that comes with such cases before the judicial officers, I would want to bring in Jacqueline here to also tell us on their side as the prosecutors. She did mention that you're like moving up to speed with whatever they are doing is equally good. What new are you learning? How ready are you officers in terms of assisting the flow, the effort? Are you learning anything new in terms of these special sessions?
Yes. So we have also devised procedures, unique procedures to assist the special SGBV session cases.
All right.
Sessions. I mentioned the use of child-friendly spaces. So apart from that, we have also developed the use of what we call anatomical dolls. These are dolls that we give the victims to use to demonstrate their sexual exploitation experiences, so that they don't have to mention uncomfortable words. So they're able to narrate their ordeals without having to go into the nitty-gritty of what exactly happened. And by that, they are not re-traumatized.
Okay.
We also ensure that the victims are protected during the process. So we will make sure, for instance, that the victims testify, for instance, through audio-video link. In this case, they don't have to come face-to-face with the accused persons. So they testify via video. We also have secured sexual reproductive kits, which include sanitary wear and toiletries, among others. And so we give these items to the victims and the witnesses as and when the need arises, to ensure that they are kept and that they are comfortable by the time they appear in the courts to testify. But also, the prosecutors have been trained on how to handle these cases. We have the Gender, Children and Sexual Offences Department, which has been going around the country training the prosecutors on how to handle SGBV cases. And they've been using a manual for child-related cases, and we have also had the prosecutors trained on plea bargaining. His Worship talked about plea bargaining the cases so that they are fast-tracked. Yes, so we recently launched our plea bargaining guidelines for the prosecutors, and we started training the prosecutors on how to use these guidelines, and they're actually making use of these guidelines in the sessions.
Yeah, it was also quite a highlight for the Chief Justice most recent on how much that has assisted in reducing the numbers of the cases.
Yes, and plea bargaining is really key because witnesses don't testify in plea bargained cases. So the cases are really fast-tracked, and you end up having many cases completed in the shortest time.
Surely.
Yes.
And probably now that we're still talking about the roles of all the players, and at this point we'd also want to know from the side of the judiciary. The actors are ready, the DPP is ready. How ready is the team from the judiciary to appreciate and assist in this fight when we bring in the discussion on these special sessions, Mr. Karemani?
Thank you very much, and my colleagues. Of course, as judiciary, we have also had the trainings for the judges, for the staff, on how they should handle these cases. We have arranged at courts to have special rooms where some of these witnesses can wait as they wait to go to the courts. Child-friendly areas, we have organized them to ensure that they feel comfortable, they don't get terrified while they are at court. Our judicial officers are trained on how to handle these children to ensure that they are comfortable, not to put on those things they put on when they are handling cases of adults, the red gowns, the wigs and all that. So they are also trained on how they can handle these cases. And the other component that is mobilizing the society. We have had sensitizations, and want to thank the media and specifically now UBC for giving us this forum where we are here trying to educate our people. So in all these areas where these sessions are ongoing, we have had to have sensitizations on radios, and others have done it physically by going to the communities and showing them the dangers of these cases. In a way, we are trying to prevent the occurrences because we are showing the society how dangerous these cases are, so that those who are intending to commit them may refrain themselves from doing so. So this is a special thing. It is not common of having to mobilize the communities before these sessions. We are also using it as a forum to mobilize witnesses so that they turn up in courts. So that the cases cannot succeed unless we have evidence, and evidence comes from witnesses. So we do appeal to our people that when you witness the commission of a crime, you are very vital to the success of the prosecution of that case. So when they invite you, please cooperate. You may have witnessed this occurring to another person, but tomorrow it might be you if you ignore. So we do request them to always cooperate and ensure that they turn up and testify. Of course, once these cases are heard, the judges put aside all other cases and ensure that these judgments are delivered in time, so that we get the outcome of the sessions.
Okay, the time is not our best ally, and I want to start with you, Mr. Karemani, again, just to give a reassurance from the side of the judiciary of your commitment to this fight of sexual and gender-based violence.
I want to commit ourselves that despite the challenges that we are facing, we are working tirelessly to ensure that we do deliver justice to our people, and this is being done. I was told in these sessions which are ongoing, there are some cases like in Mbarara where they are handling cases of 2020. So that is tremendous to hear a case which was committed in that year, before year a year ends, such a case is being disposed. So I want to assure you that we are not seated, we are not laying back. We are working hard to ensure that we improve the way we deliver justice to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Karemani. Now I want to bring in Madam Lucy to sum it up before we bring in Madam Jacqueline, but to give us a picture of what the fight is like and what the expectation, again, also to build confidence in the people out there.
Thank you. As you said, it is a fight. It is not impossible. We are very committed to addressing and reducing the levels of SGBV cases to the lowest. We are committed to ensuring that we lobby for the funding for these cases to be improved, for all the actors to be trained. But the other highlight I wanted to make is that we have strengthened the forensics tremendously. We have the Government Analytical Laboratory, we have the Police Directorate of Forensic Services. We have equipped them, we continue to equip them. But there's one thing that the former Chief Justice said, he said, Bart Katurebe, that justice is expensive. The forensic equipment are expensive, and we call upon government to facilitate forensics. We have built laboratories in Mbale, in Mbarara, in Gulu, and in Kampala, and we require equipment. And once we have the equipment, we will fast track these cases.
It is a big deal, and I know as a fact that our government has had. And lastly, I would want to bring you in, Madam Jacqueline, and from the side of the DPP, normally there have been accusations that cases die there. Please make build some hope for us that in relation to what we are talking about today, and being highlighted clearly as we have done, that it is a matter of urgency for us to deal with. What hopes do you build as we try to fight this scourge?
So the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution strongly believes in accountability and deterrence. And this is why we sanctioned these cases and took them to court. And we are committed to having them successfully prosecuted. And so we call upon the witnesses to cooperate with us so that these cases can be successfully prosecuted. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, but it's also important for me to add that this fight is for all of us as countrymen, and by far we must take responsibility in all disciplines. For some of us who are religious, some of us who are cultural, and some of us who are from communities and societies, as a case did come out and clearly facts that some of these are majorly family people, sadly. So let's put our hands together and fight this as sexual and gender-based violence, for us to make our spaces livable for people who are vulnerable. Thank you so much for watching UBC, and of course Good Morning Uganda Extra. Now normal programming will still go on, but for us and the Good Morning team, we say thank you so much and have yourselves a lovely day.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.